Et gaff til a gaff. Et gaff til a gaff. I'm illy with the telegaff. Illy with the telegaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff.
1 2 1 2. Yeah. So it's week 3 of the lockdown. What can I say, man? What can I say? Actually, today I'm not having a great day, so this isn't really a result of the lockdown that I'm having a shitty day. I think actually I'm having a shitty day as a result of Spain having like just typically freaky Easter weather. So it was cold as fuck this morning and raining, and now it's hot. So you get up in the morning and you put on like, your jumper and shit because it's like actually fucking cold. And then by whatever it is now, 7 o'clock in the evening, it's warm. Like you need to start taking off layers. You know what I mean? So it's just really kind of, I find it frustrating. Maybe other people aren't so bothered by it. You know what I mean? So I'm in kind of a shitty mood, but I'm not in a shitty mood because of the lockdown. Because like I said, like my favorite meme that my daughter sent me, when you discover that quarantine looks just like your everyday life. I work from home. I've been working from home on and off for like easily over 20 years. Most of my stuff in the last couple of years since the Brexit vote was taken has been focused on, working from home as opposed to on the road with clients. Been much more focused on stuff that I can do from an office, which I can do from a home office. So, I've been planning my out days and try and get as much done when I'm out as possible because the rest of the work's done in an office environment. So it ain't really no biggie for me. I was going to say I slipped up, but I wouldn't even say that, man. It's only right. It was only natural. We've had like 3 arguments in this house in over a month, which I think is amazing for 4 adults. One wasn't even an argument, it was just like a kind of annoyance. Then the second one was another annoyance, so I had to kind of give myself a word and chill out. The third one was an argument, but I lost my shit, which is obvious because I'm the obvious candidate to lose his shit. So I lost my shit over a circumstance, over a situation. That went on for a while. But it is what it is. That's what, living in close confinement is. That's what family is. Every once in a while, you're going to get on each other's nerves or someone's going to do something wrong. And ever since then, I kind of had a word with myself and just said, bro, it's like, what difference does it make? You know what I mean? Does it even matter if you're right? It's a difficult one because you can't have people doing dumb shit when they're wrong continuously. But at the same time, you maybe have to think about how you're going to react to the dumb shit when, even if you know you're right. It doesn't always create a good environment, so it might not have the desired effect. Yeah, so running through a couple of quick ones. The first thing I've noticed since my last lockdown edition is that every single show on TV that is currently being recorded, it's not a rerun, every single show on TV is now an episode of Through the Keyhole. And it's funny because I thought it was just me. Like my boy Naidi said to me, how he was pissed off about working from home in the Zoom meetings because he don't want no one looking over his shoulder at his yard. And I was like, yeah, that's real. Like I do all of mine against white walls. Anybody seen in the Freestyle Fridays, it's white walls. Like you ain't seen my house. I didn't invite you in. And now every single TV show where there's a guest zooming or Skyping in from their home, all we're looking at is behind their shoulders. And it's even better for me because I'm a book junkie. So anybody who knows me personally knows if you let me in your house, I will walk in your house and walk past everything in your house and go look at your bookshelf and see what you're reading. So, now I've got like, lots of snapshots of people, people in live interviews, and what they've done is they've snapshotted the person in the live interview and then zoomed it and circled behind them a particular book that they have on their shelf for whatever reason. Notably, apparently, Robert Peston, one of my favorite political commentators, has a book about hip hop. I think it's How Hip Hop Raised Me or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me with Robert Peston's style, and the way he talks. Let's speed up again. He would have like the dopest rap style if Robert Peston was a rapper. So, yeah, you know. Then there was, I don't even know her first name, but like, you know, Mrs. Gove, having to defend her choice of curtains when everyone was saying that her curtain looked like Moldy Stilton, and she's like, that's voilé. It's classical French voilé, you ignoramuses. So every single show on TV is now an episode of Through the Keyhole, and it is fucking hilarious. I'm that guy, like, I'm looking at every motherfucker's house. I ain't looking at you. I'm barely listening to what you're talking about. I don't care. I've probably heard it already. Ain't much going on in the world other than quarantine and effects of quarantine and effects of the virus. So I'm just looking over your shoulder at your house, whoever you are. And not so much what's in the room, but a lot of the time in what room you've chosen. So anyone who's got a library or a study, you know, it's so funny, I suppose, because what it really is the room that someone chooses says so much about their personality, more than you would learn anywhere else. You know, so there's another political guy, but I can't remember his name now. Norman is his first name, but I can't remember his surname. But it's like he chose a shot with a family room with like photographs behind him of like, you know, presumably kids and grandkids. So, you know, that kind of tells me, okay, you a family man. And then most people will be in the study with all the books because that's a kind of appropriate backdrop. That's kind of like, you know, backdrops 101. But then it's interesting as well that some of these people have their studies tidy when they do the Zoom calls. So they look organized, and some of them have them messy with books all over the place. You know, some make sure there's kiddies' pictures in the background. Some obviously stow away in the box room because they don't want no motherfucker looking at their house. And the box room always just look like the box room. So it's fucking hilarious. Every single show. Boris is better. He's now left hospital. He was in intensive care. The conspiracy theorists will probably still think it was all a conspiracy, that he was never there. You can hear people speaking in the background, innit? I mean, that's how Spanish motherfuckers do lockdown, huh? Spanish motherfuckers be locking down like Skepta having lockdown parties, doing Papi Chulo with Rihanna jumping online on Insta. South Spaniards be doing lockdown. Like, I don't know. But you know what it is though? The thing is, they're shouting, so they're keeping their distance and shouting for Spaniards is standard. I mean, they shout when they're within, you know, 2 centimeters of each other. So shouting across the fucking garden is no deal. So yeah, Boris is out of intensive care. Same old, you know, Trevor Noah. I was watching the Trevor Noah thing, and it's amazing that, you know, he broke this thing down and said the one business that didn't shut down as a result of the coronavirus is racism. And that's the fucking truth. So, you know, you can call racism on everything, but Gina Yashray put out a post pointing out that every time they're talking about support our NHS, there were no people of color. You know, like no matter what channel you go to and they say support our NHS, they talk to NHS workers, they have pictures of NHS workers. Almost none of them ever included people of color. They're all white people. Now, we know that NHS in the UK does not look like that. So, you know, everyone says, well, why do you have to make it about race? And say, well, no, we didn't make it about race. You made it about race, motherfucker, when you fucking airbrushed us out. Do you know what I mean? You go on any fucking ward, almost anywhere in the NHS, and there are foreigners, even after fucking Brexit. And yet, when you come to promoting the NHS and talking about how important it is to save, you airbrush all the fucking black people, Africans, Indians, other Southeast Asians, other Asians, all the Eastern Europeans, all the Spanish, Italians, Portuguese. You fucking airbrush all of them out and just present us with English white people. Probably like, I don't know, let me be polite. 50% of the NHS if that much. You know? And when you finish airbrushing us out and we say, why are we airbrushed out? You go, well, why are you going to make everything about race? It's like, it's amazing, man. After having to study and learn about narcissists, after having horrible encounters with one or maybe two, I've come to realize that, you know, the patriarchal white society is the king at gaslighting. Just doing some shit to you and then telling you they ain't doing it. You know what I mean? Waiting for you to capitulate because of their position of power. Oh, yeah, sorry, you're not beating me. My bad. Yeah, prime example. I think his name is William Walker. Yeah, everyone knows that I'm on my Behind the Bastards, man. I'm a mad fan of Behind the Bastards. And they had an episode called The World's Worst Colonizer. 2-part episode. So I'm pretty damn sure the guy's name is William Walker. And that was, you know, his whole fucking MO. Literally, pirate, going to countries, plundering, raiding, and trying to colonize countries, and then writing up in eloquent, because he was an ex-lawyer and a newspaper man, writing these wonderfully eloquent pieces talking about how he was saving people and how much they wanted him there and how ungrateful they were when they got together militias and armies to kick him out from his occupation. They were ungrateful because he was there to help them in their heathen ways. And, you know, I mean, it just says nothing new, but it's just funny to hear it rather than reported in history. It's funny to hear it written, you know, from someone's own tongue, when you have the historical facts of what they did, how unwelcome they were, and then listening to the gaslighting shit that they write when they explain it and try and justify it to themselves and other people, and hopefully try and fool you into it, you know? So it's just fucking amazing, man. Gaslighting's a thing. So I noticed that, and then in addition to that, Boris Johnson came out and said, you know, how grateful he was to the NHS, particularly singled out 2 nurses who, between them, gave him 48 hours of non-stop care, which he kind of attributes to, you know, saving his life. 1 New Zealander and 1 Portuguese. And I'm there thinking to myself, okay, I respect that because he gave them the spotlight, and I really respect that. I always think you should be grateful and give credit where it's due. It didn't miss me that immediately the day he highlighted these 2 particular nurses, the news media found its ass on literally exactly the other fucking side of the world to interview the parents of the New Zealand nurse, but nobody could find their way 3 or 4 hours away to get an interview with the family of the Portuguese nurse. Just like, I'm sure there are lots of very valid reasons for that shit, but it just seems very fucking suspect and very much in line with all the previous media reporting of the NHS and presenting it like it's some kind of a fucking 90% white Anglo-Saxon Protestant institution, whereas we know it's like that. And you know the worst part is when they start putting up the doctors and nurses who are dying from corona, that's when it's harder to blag, right? Because if you say 19 people have died, then you see the black faces. Because, you know, it's a smaller number, it's a smaller sample number. I mean, they could have played the card. I think they did play the original cards where they kind of dropped, you know, just a few faces. But when they had to try and drop all of the ones that they knew had died of treating people for coronavirus, then you start to see the African, the black doctors, nurses, whatever, you know, a more representative sample, shall I say, of the NHS. But when you're trying to promote the NHS as something that people should applaud and be grateful for and want to protect, I guess you're really playing on the fact that you don't think that enough people would applaud and want to protect us. So that's what happens. Yeah. It's like I said. So interesting. So, give Boris his respect for calling out and giving praise to the people who he attributes to putting in the extra effort and going the extra to make sure that he got the most exceptional treatment. But it just seems really funny, you know. And then the other side of it is obviously the fact that, you know, these 2 people were non-British. I ain't making a big thing about it, but, you know, it's the Brexit thing, man. It just is. It's like, well, on the one hand, you're talking about, you know, immigration and the country's dislike of immigration losing its identity. Or I can't make the argument for them because For me, all I hear is bullshit, 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 bullshit. So I'm not even going to pretend to try and make the argument for the Leave voters, but everyone knew and everyone said that you're going to lose essential members of your country and your workforce, like the two people who saved the Prime Minister's life. And okay, New Zealand is not in the European Union, so you might think, like a lot of the older people did think, that you're going to go to previous colonies and get yourself shitloads of workers, and you might be lucky and blag it. But without a doubt, 50% of the people that he attributed to doing the amazing job that saved his life came from the European Union, the same place that you just left, the same place that he was so eager and forthright in getting Britain to leave. So I just can't help but seeing some irony in that. I'm sure Leave voters won't. They'll, like most fucking lunatics, make some justification for why that all makes perfect sense. That your life is saved by somebody from a country that you want to stop coming into your country. Like maybe if we had sliding doors and you'd have got Brexit done 2 years ago, he might not have been there to help work and you might be dead. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure they would see things very differently. Obviously people do. But I can't help seeing the irony in that scenario that both the people you credit to doing the extra work, saving your life, were both foreigners working in the National Health Service, institution which is vastly populated by the people who you are pushing out through the vote leave. You know what I mean? I just find the irony in it unbelievable. Along with the other irony, the fact that the Conservatives are the people who have underfunded the NHS massively for the last 10 years. And yet when the Prime Minister goes in there, he's alive, I'm sure primarily because he got extra care that other people wouldn't have got. Because you see, other people are dying. And with the passing of two people who I love dearly in the last week or so, I've come to understand that people aren't just dying from the virus. My personal opinion is people are dying from the reduced resources and lack of resources due to the fact that fighting the virus and the efforts to fight the virus are taking up all the resources and taking away resources that would usually be available for other things. So if, for example, all the ambulances are going and picking up people who are having bad attacks of the virus to take them to hospital, maybe there are less ambulances available to go and treat other people who collapse for other reasons. I can't prove it, but it just became very apparent to me that once your resources are stretched, that's the kind of thing that's going to happen. I already saw on the TV today how, some health authorities have had to change the treatment they're giving to cancer patients. One patient who made it very clear that the only reason they were alive was because of the radiotherapy they were getting. Excuse me, I can't think of the word right now. But the therapy they were getting, the regular doses that they were getting, and it was cancelled because of the corona crisis. So luckily for them, they found another alternative, and some of these health authorities are finding other alternatives, but a lot of them aren't. I'm not saying people are going to start dying on massive cancer, but most definitely once the resources are strained, you start to see that other people who could have been saved or treated are not getting that treatment, are not going to be saved. So the true toll of this COVID-19 virus health crisis is not going to be told only in the people who died from it. I mean, in the UK, they're already lying about the numbers. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. They're quoting numbers like 10,000 people have died, but they only quote hospital deaths. They don't quote deaths in health centres, in old people's homes, and they don't quote deaths at home, which means the number's much higher. And I always think to myself, well, who the fuck do you think you're helping by massaging these figures? Yeah, sure, you don't want to create a panic, and you're doing such a good job at not creating a panic that people are going out and sunbathing in the fucking park at the Easter weekend. Or a week before Easter, everyone's going to Brockwell Park and kicking a football around and sunbathing because they don't think there's anything to worry about. So I think you have to draw a line in the sand. But all of this was led by the attitude of Boris Johnson. And I know when he got ill, there was a lot of people who were very evil and wished him badness and death. I wasn't one of them because I'm not a troll like that. And I also respect human life for the most part, unless you show me a reason that you don't respect other human life, and I won't respect yours. And that's kind of the closest I got to wishing ill on Boris Johnson. It wasn't a personal hateful thing. It was just an extension of logic that you came out right at the start of this and said, "Someone, you're going to lose your loved ones," and then you kind of bolstered on with your kind of typically arrogant white privilege that these things don't affect me until you catch your ass. And then we start to wonder if your speech about some of you are going to lose your loved ones was about you, and you was talking to your father and your wife and your kids, because you seem very blasé about the fact that some people are going to lose their loved ones, until it was your ass in intensive care. And it's very funny to me that, you know, people say, well, the attitude is hateful, but it isn't. It's really simple. It's like this analogy. If you tell everybody, don't worry about the winter and go out without a coat, and loads of people who don't worry about winter and go out without a coat and catch the cold and get sick, then it's your fault for giving them advice, particularly when you're in a position of power and a position of leadership and people follow you. So the attitude of the Brits with regards to how dangerous this thing was and how important social distancing was and how important it was not to be a passive carrier and spread it onto other people who were in a demographic to die from it, all came from the lead set by the UK government, Boris Johnson's government, and Boris Johnson himself. So since he told everybody to go out in winter without a coat and enough of them catch a cold, how then could I feel so sorry for him or so sad for him when he went out in winter without a coat and catch a cold? I couldn't, because it's what he told everyone else to do. Luckily, a lot of people are recovering from it. It doesn't have that high mortality rate in that way, like, you know, on the level of if you catch it, like, you're likely to die. I have more than one friend, people I care about, who have caught it and been hospitalized and left the hospital. So I wasn't overly surprised when he caught it and was hospitalized and left the hospital. But seriously, do we really need to be taking them kind of a fucking risks? And then you got the health secretary. I can't even remember that cuntard's name. I just remember that from the Conservative leadership election, he showed himself to be a grade A snake. Matt Hancock, some wank like that, some name like that. Anyway, typical example of the kind of person who can't admit they're wrong and say they're sorry. So when presented with the fact that nurses who are on the front line saving people's lives, like Boris Johnson, are much more important people, like normal people, our friends, brethren, parents, grandparents, the people on the front line doing that, when they were complaining that they don't have enough personal protective equipment, he's talking about they're squandering it and not using it appropriately, rather than just saying, yeah, I'm sorry, we fucked up, we're getting out of there as soon as possible. Just to kind of just makes my skin crawl. You know what I mean? The kind of people who can't accept responsibility, but expect everyone else to accept responsibility. Just one of my pet hates. Like, you can't accept responsibility, but you expect everyone else to accept responsibility. I'm sure there's a word for that. I'll find it one day. Something more useful than white privilege, which just bores the shit out of me. Or fucktard, which really is probably the best description, but, you know, could apply to too many other types of people. So I'll find the word for the kind of person who, like Boris Johnson, sends everyone out a road like this thing ain't really a big deal and then catches it himself, or tells everyone else as the health minister to accept responsibility to protect the NHS and not to spread this thing and to save lives, but won't accept his own responsibility for the fact that his department fucked up in getting the PPE to the people who need it, and can't accept responsibility to the extent that he has to blame the recipients of the PPE for wasting it, as opposed to apologizing to them for putting their lives at risk by not providing it. How gross is that, man? It's just gross. It's just grotesque human beings. Seriously. Wonder why I've got no faith in human nature. I've got to live on this planet with these fucking human reptiles. Another example, Trump. Bored of him as well. But it's like scary as shit. Like when you see, first time I turned on my TV a couple of days ago and I saw there were like effectively open graves in New York, I thought it was a fucking hoax. I was like, nah, that can't possibly be true. That you're doing mass burials like this is some fucking Stalin or Franco shit. mass burials. You don't know where your loved one is buried, just somewhere over there in that pile. But that's what's going on in New York. Again, because of the ineffectual leadership of Trump. Again, because of somebody with that kind of politics looking at the economy rather than health. So like I said, Boris is out of intensive care. He's out of hospital. I don't wish no ill to no man more than so. You know what I mean? Not any more ridiculous than the rest of the ridiculous people. Them. I know that people's actions are dangerous and cause murder, but you've got to draw your line somewhere. I shouldn't say murder. I suppose I should say death. So I suppose if your political actions cause death, I understand some people might wish death on you, but I suppose I got to draw my line at, you know, with how I see, you know, I guess everyone's got to draw their line somewhere. Let's put it that way. So I don't wish death on him in that way, in the same way that I might have if he ordered a missile strike. And if he'd ordered a missile strike, I still wouldn't. You know, wishing death on somebody is a very particular thing. It's easy for trolls and keyboard warriors to get behind keyboards and talk about how much they want to see someone die. I just think that kind of hate is toxic, more for yourself than anyone else. Even though the actions of these people do that. One of the reasons why I'm always so interested in shows, like I said, like The 100, is because so many people love to criticize everything everybody does, but they have no solutions themselves. I always understand that if you were put in that situation, you would have to make some tough decisions and you might have some blood on your hands. So it's not so much the blood on your hands, it's the methodology, the thinking behind the decisions you make. You know, why did you make that decision? And that brings me neatly to the next point, which is finally being highlighted. Trevor Noah, who I'm an absolute just devotee of. I don't watch everything he does, but I love everything he says pretty much. You know, has a very good video going around where the punchline of the video I like is he basically says, you know, that coronavirus has destroyed the economy and closed down all sorts of businesses and sectors of the economy. But racism is still open for business and still very active. And, you know, he points that out firstly by pointing out the piss information, which is all the different Black, African, Pan-African, Black Power, whatever the fuck they were, groups that were busy telling people that Black people couldn't catch or couldn't die from coronavirus and talking all that fucking hoopla and downright fucking dangerous foolishness. Prime example, do I wish death on those guys any more than I should wish death on Boris Johnson? Because his flatten the herd curve, I've already said, I truly believe was as much about population control as it was about a genuine way to deal with the problem and save as many lives as possible. And these fucking idiots telling Black people that they couldn't catch it. And I'd seen a couple of these videos that Black people would be immune. Some bullshit about some Black guy who caught coronavirus and got better because it couldn't kill us. Just fucking ludicrous shit. Should I hold those people accountable for any of the people who believe they're dumb shit and went out of road, caught coronavirus or took coronavirus home to their susceptible family members and friends and died? Are they also to be wished death upon for the part that they played in other people's deaths? I guess if you wish death on the first one, you have to wish death on the second, right? I don't wish death on any of them. They're all fucking idiots. I don't know what level you have to be at as a fucking idiot for me to wish death on you. I'll wait to find that out. But, you know, there are a lot of idiots. Now, in between the 5G creates coronavirus, it's planned by Bill Gates to get us all chipped vaccines so the Antichrist can enter the earth and take over. So you got to believe in Jesus. And Black people can't catch coronavirus because of the melanin in our skin. Motherfucker, please. So back to my point. So Trevor Noah was basically breaking down that, you know, this stuff had been going around, but it's the exact opposite. Coronavirus does not kill more black or ethnic minority people because they're black. Like pretty much fucking everything else. Coronavirus kills more black and ethnic minority people because we're poor. Don't know what the hell them people are clapping for. It ain't 8 o'clock yet. Maybe they're getting a jump on it. So, you know, we die because we're poor. I can't even break down all the reasons why, but there's some glaringly obvious ones that come to my mind. You know, Boris Johnson talks so much about the 2 nurses who he accredits to, you know, playing an instrumental part in saving his life, and points out that they were there giving him 48 hours non-stop care. He was in one of the better hospitals, if not the best hospital in London. And, you know, that's the kind of care you'd get. And let's be honest with you, a bit like how Preacher has to drive a nice car because no one wants to see Preacher turn up at church on a Sunday in an old hoopty. The president and the prime minister is going to get better care than everyone else. Don't even fucking expect them to get the same. And if you really think that they deserve to get the same, you're a fucking idiot. It just isn't feasible. It's just not fucking sensible. But the truth of the matter is the people in the poorer neighborhoods and the poorer backgrounds will not be going to the best hospitals in the best areas and getting the best care. They'll be going to the hospitals just like the schools, just like everything else in those areas that are not the best funded, not the best run, not the best resourced, struggling, many maybe in areas that are chronically underfunded, barely struggling to provide a good service in normal times, and easily overwhelmed in times of crisis, where the worst, the most harsh decisions are going to have to be made as to who lives and dies, as to who gets protective equipment, as to who gets oxygen and who gets ventilators. And that's just the start of it. In places like America, where, you know, you have to pay for your healthcare, if you're from a poor area or you've got less money, you are going to discover that you really don't have the money to have the kind of healthcare that will allow you to survive this kind of infection, even though for your age or demographic or level of, you know, vulnerability, it's quite survivable. You know, and that's what's going to happen. So we're going to get a situation where 8 to 9-year-old millionaires survive coronavirus, and 32-year-old reasonably healthy black and Latino people in America don't, because income inequality, inequality of resources, inequality of opportunity affects every aspect of your life. You know, that's why I'm a meritocrat. Because if people got what they had based on their merit, based on their contribution, based on their skills, as opposed to based on their family ties or based on their skin color or height or weight or eye color or any other stupid, you know, decision-making protocol, then there would seem, in my mind, obviously, to be a much fairer distribution. But it isn't like that. And more poor people are going to die. And because of the endemic systematic racism that's propelled throughout the whole of the Western world, there are more poor people from the Black, Latino, Indian, subcontinent demographic. So more of those people are going to die. That's the bottom line. So Trevor Noah put it best. All kinds of businesses have been closed down. All kinds of workers have been furloughed. But racism isn't taking a day off. The effects of racism is not taking a day off. And for anybody who was dumb enough to believe that, you know, mix up a little concoction and you're good because coronavirus can't trouble you because you're black, you know, and that was, you know, that was sent to me already by one of my mentors. And I said to him, why? I said, that don't make no sense. Why would people be promoting that shit? And he said to me just straight away, because I really couldn't get my head around it. He said, because they want people to believe that dumb shit and die. You know what I mean? And here we are, discussing people believing that dumb shit and dying. One of the most, you know, insultive, offensive, piss information pieces I saw was some highly educated, white, hipster-looking motherfucker talking about he was this of this and a that of that. I didn't give a fuck. Telling me that viruses didn't exist. I've heard Anthony Robbins say the same thing. And therefore, since coronavirus doesn't exist, you can go out a street and ignore all the government recommendations because it's all part of a bigger plan and blah, 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 blah. Okay. You know, that reminds me so strongly of a conversation, an argument I used to have with a very good friend of mine. Because I think terminology is something that people get very lost and tied up in to the point that it has no fucking value and you miss the point. And it's an issue that frustrates me greatly. The argument I used to have, by the way, was that he used to tell me that you couldn't catch a cold by going out in the cold weather without a jacket. And we had this massive argument, right? He's from up north and I'm from London. And I was getting, how can you go around in your t-shirt? It's freezing. You're mad. You're going to catch a cold. He goes, oh, you can't catch a cold. Colds are, you know, whatever they're spread by, whatever the scientific term is. And you don't catch that by going out and not having a jacket on. And I said to him, well, okay. I said, I'm the social scientist. I was doing the BA. I said, you're the scientist. You know, actually I was doing the BSc, but still, I was doing the social science. You know, he was a kind of pure scientist. And I said, well, okay. You may have the scientific information to back up that hypothesis, that theory. You may even be able to have it to the level that you call it a proof. But let me explain something to you. Ever since as long as I can remember, since I was a child, if I go out in the cold, underdressed, no scarf, no hat, no jacket, I catch a cold. Within a short space of time, I come back in and I'm unwell. I'm sneezing, I'm coughing, I have all those symptoms. Now, you can call it what the fuck you want. And you can say that the cause of it is what the fuck you want. But what I know is that when I go out with a hat and a jacket and a scarf, keep myself warm, I'm less likely to come home with the same shit unless someone directly passes some shit onto me. But not if I'm just in my own environment. So I said, I don't give a fuck what your scientific proofs say. My experience tells me that's bullshit. Now, don't get me wrong. I know my experience can be wrong. But I think that people's experience is massively undervalued in the light of scientists talking improbable shit. So when a scientist is telling me that there is no such thing as a virus because viruses are dead, they spend bits of bacteria, they don't live, they can't be transmitted, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It's irrelevant. That's for you and your other nerdy fucking friends to sit around and hypothesize about. What I do know is there is something out there that's being transmitted from person to person and motherfuckers are getting sick. I started this maybe a month ago, 3 episodes ago, saying there are only 2 aspects of the coronavirus pandemic that I need to investigate. Is it a false flag, a hoax, a conspiracy that doesn't exist? Or is there something out there that does exist that is making people sick and killing motherfuckers? Those are the only 2 things I need to investigate. I don't need to get deep down into the whys, the wherefores, the whats, the whos, because they are mainly secondary. If it's a false flag, I take one action. If the shit is real, I take another one. The second action is basically to take care of myself, my family, and also, more importantly, to be socially responsible in my actions, to not be a passive carrier and go and make other people sick. And that's the side of things that these stupid piss information, WhatsApps, posts, Facebooks, Instas are doing. They're making people say, oh, this shit isn't real. This is bullshit. I'm going to go out a road and see what the government's doing. And then they go out a road with their passive carrying ourselves, or sometimes even blatantly sick ourselves, and pass that shit to other people, which eventually down the line leads to somebody dying. And not even, you know, as I've come to discover, people dying directly from coronavirus. Like I said, I've lost 2 people who I care very much in the last couple of weeks. One has now been absolutely confirmed that didn't die from the coronavirus. The other one probably didn't. But what's so clear is that, you know, as I said, the strain on the resources of an already underfunded national health system in the UK and a very underfunded health system here in Spain means that with all the cases of coronavirus, with every extra case of coronavirus that becomes chronic, that takes up ambulance time, police time, doctor time, nurse time, hospital resources, every single one of those cases that take up those kind of resources and effort is resources and effort that cannot be given to another health crisis. And I truly, with my hand on my heart, believe that the true impact of this coronavirus and pandemic is not going to be about the people who died from the coronavirus. So those numbers are outrageously and horrifically high. It's also going to be when you factor in the fact that so many people would have died of other illnesses that had been pre-existing or maybe just set upon them that had nothing to do with COVID-19 and that could have been treated and corrected, and these people could have survived had not all the resources that were needed to help them to survive those incidents been redirected to coronavirus and COVID-19 fighting. That to me is going to be the real tragedy. When we start to clock how many people have died simply because the resources weren't there to treat them when their cases and circumstances were treatable, that's when you're going to really see that the toll that, of people who die from this pandemic goes up by a third or maybe even, doubles. And I think that's going to be the real human life cost. And then we're going to get into the human life cost of the recession stroke depression that's probably going to follow this thing. Because every single country is doing its own thing, taking its own approach, which is fine. You've got a right, but it's going to give a very staggered approach to tourism, to commerce, to economics, when everyone's at a different stage. Where can you fly into? Where can't you fly out of? Where can you drive to? What can't you go into? Who's still on full lockdown? Who's on partial lockdown? Who's producing? Who's going to factories? Who's not? You're getting one parts made out of one factory, but the factory that they're normally delivered to isn't yet working. And that's after the fact that to date, the last figure I heard was 16 million Americans have been made unemployed already since the start of this. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of UK people are furloughed. I've spoken to a lot of people on my business calls who have all been furloughed or made unemployed and looking to start their own businesses. I'm already scared of running out of money. Up to 1 million extra applications for universal credit. And as I predicted, not saying it's correct, I think it was a Daily Mirror report that said that only 5,000 coronavirus business loans had been granted since the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, announced the measure like 2 weeks ago. Now, I know these things take a time to process, but lots of people are saying that they are applying for them. Their banks are refusing them because they're business loans. Like I've got businesses, but my businesses have not been running long enough to provide a bank with the kind of data that it wants to give me a loan. And then there'll be other businesses who, for other reasons, may have been struggling, but might have been just about to turn a corner or turn shit around, but couldn't put that on paper in a way to convince a bank to give them a loan. And now they're going to have that 2-3 months of turnaround time taken away from them. So the economic impact is going to be absolutely fucking horrendous. I don't think anything can be seen as much more horrendous than the loss of life, but the economic impact will be horrendous all in itself. And those are the issues to me. Although I must say, I ain't watched it yet. Someone did send me a link of Bill Gates talking on some English morning program. I don't know if it's BBC News or Good Morning Britain. Bill Gates talking about coronavirus and vaccines. So maybe the whole Bill Gates is behind all of this because he's going to fund the vaccine that has a chip that, chips us all. So we're ready for the arrival of the Antichrist. Maybe there is some credence to that. It would almost make sense. It'd be almost like Terminator, just without the guy who created the Terminator being a black guy. But the point being, right now, like in the last 2 weeks, my focus has been on the people I care about, who I loved, who I, like everybody, didn't contact enough, didn't see enough, who I'm no longer going to have the opportunity to go and find and see and talk with, tell them how much they meant to me. My focus, my efforts, my energy, my prayers has been on the people who I know, who I love, who I care about, who are either at home, sick, diagnosed with this COVID-19 thing, or have been rushed to hospital, diagnosed with this COVID-19 thing. And the Prime Minister wasn't one of those people. Yeah, he got his own people to worry about him. You know what I'm dealing with? That's what my focus has been. Not on if 5G is creating this, or Bill Gates is creating this. That can come for a later time. My effort has to end just to go to the people I want to see alive and the people I'm grieving. So, you know, to me, that's just a nonsense. So, you know, I think that's all for now. This thing has made me have some wicked thoughts. Every time I go out of my house and people come up to me, and usually, because I only really like to walk the dog, right? And people out here love to walk their dog without having it on a lead. Some kind of ego, man in control of beast shit, which doesn't work. It makes them look ridiculous when the dog runs around where the fuck it wants. So every time somebody's dog runs up to me, I'm on a team like I'm going to start coughing at people. I don't have a cough. I don't have a cold. I don't have a sniffle. But I'm literally about to start coughing at motherfuckers to keep them away from me. Like, I appreciate, I'm only human, you know. This thing kind of generates a paranoia in you. You know, that we had the high risk demographics. So a lot of people dying from outside of that demographic. Like I said, right in my very first COVID-19 lockdown podcast, I didn't think I was really high risk. But there's lots of people dying who were kind of lower risk than me. So maybe I am. Yeah, so I was saying, dumb motherfuckers with dogs, or even without dogs, who want to just roll up on you and have conversations. Now, I get it. I'm kind of overly paranoid, and it kind of comes from being a goody two-shoes. So I guess technically, although I like to be a free thinker, see myself as a free thinker, or maybe the whole idea of this project is to help encourage and nurture myself as a free thinker. But whatever the answer to that question is, I figure I'm kind of easy to control, because I will toe the company line. But then I always say, I'll only toe the company line if it makes sense to me. So that's what I'm trying to say. This thing is either a false flag, a hoax, or it's real. And if it's real, then I need to do two things. Not catch this bitch myself, so I'm not negatively impacted. I've spoken to 2 people on the phone who've had mild COVID, and they can barely even fucking make a sentence without coughing and swallowing in a way that sounds very painful, and they weren't even bothered. And the other people who I know were hit by it hard, I couldn't even get on the phone. You know what I'm trying to say? Because they ain't well. So I ain't trying to catch that to go through that unpleasant experience just to swing my balls around and say that I'm fucking Chuck Norris. I'm some kind of a macho man. Fuck that. Thank you, but no thank you. If I have to be sick, I ain't trying to be sick. And like I said, the flip side is you could be a passive carrier, carrying that bitch and passing it on to other people. So why would I want your dumb fucking ass to come up on me within them 2 meters for whatever fucking reason, for you to pass shit on to me, for me to bring it home, even make my family sick, or when I go back out, the next dumb fucker who comes within 2 meters of me, I pass it to them. You know what I mean? I would much prefer to not be a part of that chain at all. So fuck off. Stay the fuck away from me. Is it that hard? I ain't coming up near you. I ain't trying to have a conversation. That's what telecommunications was made for. You want to talk to somebody? There's a phone. There's a WhatsApp. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm a kind of, I don't know what the fucking word would be for that, man. Emo. Isn't far off. You know what I mean? I know we all need human contact, but I suppose for a number of reasons, I'm comfortable with contacting people through non-human skin-to-skin interaction. And I love skin-to-skin human interaction. Most people who know me will tell you that I'm a hugger. Like, I won't see you and give you a dap or a pound. Like, I'm more like to give you a hug. You know what I mean? So I got love for my people, and I like to express it in that way. But I'm also good to phone you, WhatsApp you, leave your voice message, and still get a connection feeling from that. So I know that some people, I get it, you want to talk to people, but like I said, we can't all do the shit we want to do. There's lots of shit that all of us want to do that we can't do. And someone pointed out very clearly on my Facebook who was having a fucking paddy rant. The longer people get their head around the fact, or the longer it takes people to get their head around the fact that we all can't all do the shit that we want to do, the more fucking people that go out there and do the shit that they want to do because it's inconvenient to them to not have to do it, is the longer this fucking thing is going to drag on for all of us. Not just in terms of people being sick, and even worse in terms of people dying, but in terms of lockdowns, the mental, psychological effects of that, the physical health effects of lockdowns, as well as the economic effects. I mean, you know, I'm just so pleased that I haven't had a major fucking back trauma in the last 4+ weeks, bearing in mind I'm meant to walk a minimum of 1 hour every fucking day, something that I cannot do. I can't walk my dog for another fucking hour. That ain't the plan. The fucking instruction was be out, let that thing piss and shit and get your ass back in your home. So I can black it for 20 minutes, maybe, half an hour. If I'm bouncing down the road with my dog for an hour every single day, I'm going to get pulled up. It's just long. You know what I'm trying to say? So, and the thing is, I'm not the only one. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not like I can say, well, I'm going to squeeze with the dogs walks into fucking one walk and get my hour out. It's not how it works. So I've had to put a lot of effort into not, you know, re-aggravating my fucking chronic back problem. So, you know, there's going to be people, I was thinking about the fucking businesses that are going to boom off of the back of this, you know, the businesses that will boom without even needing to market themselves. Businesses like mortgage brokers, people who need second homes, businesses like bridging companies, anything to do with short-term finances for people who are trying to find ways to survive or pay back debts that they've run up in this crisis period. And a lot of shit to do with health. Dentists, for people who are being at home, binge eating and fucking up their teeth. Going to come out of this lockdown and need to go to a dentist. Chiropractors, osteopaths for people like me who have got back problems that after not being able to do the exercise that they've been recommended to do daily outside are going to have chronic back problems they're going to need to be need resolved, you know, just loads of businesses. So like anything, it ain't going to be all bad. There are going to be some winners. If you happen to be, you know, in, again, a sector of industry where the winners are going to be, it's going to be all good. You know, visual communications, companies like Zoom, WebEx, well, I think we've gone through a lot of these before. Divorce lawyers, for sure. You know what I mean? Most people can't spend the fucking Christmas holiday or Thanksgiving together. Imagine how they're going to survive 4 weeks of lockdown. People are going to be it's going to be very clear to a lot of people that they're not meant to be together. They no longer want to be together or pretend. Grief counselors. You know what I mean? Some shit I could probably do with myself right now. Even though the people passed away and weren't close to me, like nuclear family or direct family, grief is grief. You know? Just a lot of fucking shit. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, man, I just think, you know, it would be nice for people to play their fucking part and not think that, you know, this is really hypocritical, right? Because I have a whole life philosophy that I don't have to do what other people do. That's actually the whole free thinking philosophy. You know, I don't have to follow the herd. I don't have to follow the crowd. I will think about things and make my own decision. And with that, I know everyone does that. With that comes the ability to be wrong, or sometimes historically wrong, amazingly wrong, you know, wrong to a massive extent. But at the same time, I don't let the whole concept of being a free thinker, make my own decisions, do my own research to an extent, trying to analyze things to see what is sensible, logical, or what goes in my own emotion, and making my decisions based on that, make me socially responsible. So I don't get, you know, I'm sure a lot of the people out there who were out in Brockwell Park a couple of weeks sunning themselves, you know, thought they were being slick or thought they were being clever because, you know, they're bucking the system, because the man can't keep them down, Babylon can't tell them what to do, or whoever they want to attribute the power they're fighting on some Chuck D shit, fight the power. But the only power you're fighting is the power of your fucking friends and neighbors by making this thing go longer and fucking prolonging our agony. And as I said, if you don't believe this shit and you want to lead a charge against the fucking Parliament or the White House or the fuck wherever you're gonna go to create a revolution because you think that the government is on some long-term systematic population control theory, then fucking go out of doors and do it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Get all the rest of your 5G. Bill Gates is behind this Antichrist, Christian, whatever denomination they are. All of you get together, go storm the Parliament, change the laws. I'm fucking good. When I see you out a road, I'll consider if I want to join you. Because my whole life, all I've ever seen is you fucking people there talking your shit, trying to get me to go do something. But you're just in your house, keyboard warrioring it out. And then bouncing around your friend's house to buy some spliff or have your private church meeting or whatever the fuck you're doing, ignoring everybody's fucking advice and making the fucking spread worse, making the contagion last longer, creating more fucking death, and keeping the lockdown and the inconvenience longer for everybody else. That's all I see. So fuck all of y'all. Bullshit. I call bullshit on all of you. You know what I mean? And you can call that some Uncle Tom, do what Master says stuff if you think. But I just again will relate to the person who had the fucking the fucking lockdown Paddy on my Facebook, who's just like, what the fuck is wrong with people, man? Can we not just do what we're meant to do and get past this? Really? It's hard. It's hard enough already. We want it done. We want it over. We want to see some fucking movement. We want to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And every time people go out a road, they ignore this shit on whatever their philosophy is, whether it's on some fucking Antichrist is coming or whether it's on some 5Gs here, whatever dumb, or whether it's on some viruses don't exist, it's bullshit, or whether it's on some I'm just too fucking important to listen to what anybody says, and if I want to go down to the fucking Peak District for the weekend and eat have a picnic with my brethren, I can do that. Or yeah, it's lockdown, but do a sneak thing, come around my house, we're having a lockdown party. Apparently DJs are in demand at the moment. People doing barbecues and fucking house parties. I refuse to believe it's just stupidity. It's that whole sense of ingovernable, you know, what the fucking word? Being ingovernable. It's that whole sense of not having to do what you're told. Well, I have a problem with you not doing what you're told, man. But I do have a problem with you doing some dumb fucking shit that makes life worse for the rest of us. I have a serious fucking problem with that. So, if you got something to say, go prove it. If you know the government's fucking pulling a fast one, and it's all bullshit, be the hero. You know what I mean? Be the Matt Damon. Be the Tom Cruise. Be Chuck Norris. Run up in Parliament, go get them documents, jump on fucking live TV and expose that shit. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. Because like I said, I got too many fucking sick people on the end of my fucking phone to know that something is out there and people are getting sick of something. You want to prove that it ain't corona? You want to prove it was made in the lab? Yeah, I'm down with all of that. I'm waiting for the information. But in the interim, don't be telling me fuck this shit, ignore it, gotta roll, do you? When I got people sick, and I'm probably going to have people sicker. And God forbid I have people pass away. You know what I mean? Like I said, I already think the secondary effects of the fucking viruses has contributed to that anyway, in my own personal belief. I don't want to create any upset or distress to any of the families involved. It's just my personal belief, because that's just an assumption based on logic. Because every time I've ever heard anyone talk about National Health Service or Spanish Health Service, it's chronically underfunded and chronically under-resourced on a good fucking day. So just logic presupposes that putting it under some kind of a crisis, it would start to creak at the seams with regards to providing provision for people who are already ill and need urgent treatment. Like I said, like the TV article, which was about the people who weren't getting, it was chemo, the word I was trying to find, people weren't getting chemotherapy. They had to abandon the chemotherapy. One was saying, I've been on chemotherapy for 3-4 months. It's the only thing keeping me alive. They have abandoned my therapy because they can't provide it because of coronavirus issues taking all the resources. That's what I'm talking about. So can people stop fucking about so we can be over this? Because it's going to take a long time. It ain't like a 2-week lockdown means we're back around smelling the fucking roses like after the happening, when the earth stopped killing people and releasing them spores, and we all walked around looking like we just come out of the fucking Garden of Eden. It's going to be months. So the sooner we get there, the better. All right, then. Ain't really got nothing else to say. Other than rest in peace, my brother, who I've known for, my God, probably the best part of 40 years. I loved you dearly. Heartbroken that I haven't seen you in such a long time. Since I moved here to Spain, I tried to get a lot of people to breeze through Spain and see me. Obviously not possible for everyone. And I'm just heartbroken because you're such a huge influence in my life at a very pivotal point in my life when I was understanding myself and politics and culture and coming into myself, coming into my adulthood. So rest in peace. And rest in peace. You know, this is what happens, man. I can't call her my mother. She was a mother, but she was a mother to my wife. You know, not the mother of my wife, but a mother to my wife. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. And, you know, as I said, I'm a satellite, but in some ways a mother to me. And I don't think I've ever seen such a force of nature. I don't think I've ever seen such an amazing matriarch who has left such an amazing legacy and done so many amazing things and touched so many lives and continue to touch lives right up until the last day, you know, that she was here. But I can only speak from my personal experience, which was to have been embraced and loved and seen. You know what I mean? You would think somebody with that many people to deal with, not just nuclear family members, but everyone who they brought to the table. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It was literally like, you know, just because of the amount of standing room in the room, I came in the room last and I was right at the back. And right at the back of this room with all these important people, I still got seen and cared for and nurtured and appreciated. And yeah, rest in peace, man. You know, the world will never know either of your likes again. For sure, the world will never know either of your likes again. And for all you people making this thing take longer, just stop fucking about.
Et gaff til a gaff. Et gaff til a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff.